First thing to understand when learning redstone is that there's two types of block, right? There's a transparent block and a solid block. If you're using a solid block, stuff can power it, like repeaters, comparators. I'll go into more detail later. But if you've got a solid block, stuff can power it. But if you've got a see-through block, like a transparent block, like this block here, this will not get powered, right? See, if I switch this out for this, it will suddenly get powered. Switch out for this, it won't get powered. Make sense? Okay. So basically, redstone is like the bare bones of most redstone projects, right? It can just power stuff, like it can power a repeater, and it can also power blocks that are underneath it, or if it's facing into the block, it can power a block to the side of it, like this here. But it cannot pick up redstone pulses given by like a redstone block, redstone dust powering a block. So for example, a repeater can pick this pulse up, but a redstone dust cannot. But if I made this a repeater, then redstone dust could actually pick it up. That's because if you have redstone dust facing into a block, redstone dust cannot pick it up, only other components can. So a repeater is interesting, right? It can power blocks like this, just like redstone can, but everything can pick this up, including redstone dust, right? But then there's another feature that's, again, not quite as well known, is that if you can lock a repeater. So now that this repeater is locked, because I powered it to the side of it, if I turn this off, this will still stay on. Even if I remove this power source, it will stay on until this is unlocked. So as you can see, now I can lock it, and if I try to power it, it just won't work. That's because that's the way that repeaters work. It's not that useful for a component, because there's better ways to lock it using pistons and stuff. But I mean, it exists for people who really want to use it. But yeah, it's not that important of a redstone component. So I'm not actually gonna like show the comparator in this video because it's just too complicated of a block. I'm gonna dedicate an own video to this if I have time sometime. But yeah, right now this video is gonna be way too long if I try to explain this. It's too big. It's too big of a redstone component. It's insane. You probably know that there's two different pistons. A regular piston and a sticky piston. And if you power one, it won't retract the block. If you power the other, it will retract the block, right? But there is actually a way to actually get this block to like keep its retraction. Like it can spit out its block like this does. So if you power this quick enough, see? It spits out its block. Do it again. Actually, if I just place this on top. Yeah, you see? So I'm firing it with a quick enough pulse. The piston is extending fast enough so it just spits out the block instead of keeping it. And this is useful for many things in redstone contraptions. Like without this, like a lot of redstone contraptions would not be possible. But yeah. Another interesting thing about pistons is that they all de-extend at the exact same time. Because you see that they like extended one after the other. But if I do this, they're all going to de-extend at the exact same time. Do you see that? They all de-extend in the same game tick. And this is useful for stuff like repeaters, but they're zero ticked. Like they're just like instant repeaters. Because I could keep this going forever, and there would still be a redstone pulse at the end. As long as I keep the chunks loaded, it'll just keep going on. And it's just, yeah, it's a useful feature. But it's mainly just used for like instant redstone repeaters and stuff like that. We also have the TNT here. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? It just explodes. Another thing to note is that TNT will not blow up waterlogged stairs. Actually, that wasn't a good example. That wasn't... So another example is that TNT will not blow up waterlogged stairs, bedrock or obsidian, and primal. I mean, anything that's waterlogged won't get blown up because it's technically water. I don't know. But yeah. Also, TNT has a 100% drop rate. That was changed recently, which was epic and cool. Next up, we have Observer. Now, the observer is actually quite an interesting block in Minecraft because it detects when there's a change in what's in front of it. So, for example, if a block is placed, there'll be a redstone output. Same when the block is like deplaced or broken. But also, when, for example, a dropper is activated, I'll show that with a lever. But when a dropper is activated, it will actually still activate this because there's a change in this. So there'll be a redstone output. And it's always one tick. So if you've got a piston here, it will spit out its blocks. Let me just show that to you. See? It always spits out no matter what. Now we have the different pressure plates. So now we have oak and stone pressure plate, right? So they don't seem that different, but there's actually one major difference. And that's that this can have items dropped onto it, that one cannot. But when I still walk on them, they both activate. That's the same with all these trapdoors, these pressure plates, by the way. If you walk on them, they will all activate. It's also important to note that it will power the block underneath it. If it's solid, of course. And it powers with a strength of 15 all the time. Then we have the gold weighted pressure plate, which is actually interesting because it's depending on how many items you have on it. So if I just like spam a bunch of items on it, you can see it increases. I'm pretty sure it's the same with entities as well. Yeah, it would be because items are entities. But yeah, if you're just standing on it by yourself, it will only output a signal strength of 1. So yeah, it's pretty epic. I don't actually know what this one does, because if I throw more items onto it, it doesn't actually change. But is it just entity based? I'm sorry, I need to figure this out. If it's just entity based, that'd be interesting. It is not just entity based. At least I think it's not just entity based. Wait, give me a sec. Next we have dropper and dispenser. So the dispenser used to be the dropper, but then they added the feature that dispensers could like actually do stuff. Like dispensers could. That's a dropper. But now dispensers can actually like place water and stuff like that, and it can also unplace water, right? And then this thing, right, is exactly like this thing here, with its like thing, but it actually just like dispenses the item. So like so it actually like drops the item down. It doesn't actually like do anything with it. So while this one just like spits it out, this one actually like places it. It's pretty epic. But this doesn't do it with all things. If for example you put a block there, it still wouldn't actually like place it because that's not a feature in Minecraft. It should be a feature according to some people, but it's not. Yeah, you can see that there. Next we have the slime block, which is actually probably one of the best like redstone components there are. Something I forgot to mention in the piston area is that a piston has a max push limit of 12 blocks. So for example, if I grab 12 grass blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, this should be able to push it. As you can see here, it can push more up. But if I try to add another block here, this will no longer activate until I remove a block and then try this again. Do you see? So then, when you add slime blocks, all these do is they stick to the thing. So if it's a sticky piston, these will all move up and down simultaneously with the thing. And you can attach blocks to this. As long as it's not pushing more than 12 blocks, it can move everything attached to it. I don't have access to honey blocks in this version, I'm still on number 14. But they basically do the same thing as slime blocks. And you can look up some YouTube video if you really want to know more about honey blocks in particular. But yeah, slime blocks are epic. Before I forget, slime blocks are a solid block, unlike honey blocks, which are not. Right, next we have the rails. So we've just got like a regular rail first, right? And this, it just pushes a cart along. It doesn't do anything special with a cart. All it does is it pushes a cart along a track, as long as it doesn't like have a way to get off like it does here. But yeah. But then we have a powered rail, which is like a rail, but if it's powered, it goes super fast, and if it's not powered, it basically puts a brake on it. Wait. Yeah, look, it'll go super fast now, but then if it's not powered, it basically breaks it. So look, I could power it, and quickly unpower it, and see it stopped, even though I had a bunch of momentum. The detector rail is like a pressure plate for a minecart, because if something's on it, this will work. And it also does some stuff with comparators, but then again, I'm also going to do a separate video on comparators and all that stuff. So, yeah, you'll find out then. The last thing it does, or the last rail thing there is this thing. So any rail, any minecart that's on top of this thing will automatically push out anything that's inside. See that? No matter how hard I try, I'll always just get pushed out of this. But then if I turn it off, look. So if this is off, I'm perfectly fine. As soon as I turn it on, it starts to push me out. Next we have a different rail stuff. Or the different minecarts, sorry. So we have these minecarts here, right? And these are all different things. This one, I mean, these are all just like regular stuff, but in minecart form. This is like a hopper, but it's a minecart. This is a chest, but it's in a minecart, etc., etc. And this is useful because I actually didn't go into movable blocks. Give me a second. So there are certain blocks in Minecraft that cannot actually be moved. This includes any storage block, like a hopper, and chest, anything like that. And it also includes obsidian and bedrock, which I'll just quickly show. See? See, it's not going to get picked up ever. There are ways to remove bedrock using pistons, but it's not really the same thing. But yeah, coming back to these stuff, this is actually really useful because that means you can move these storage objects like hoppers or chests or something because they're in minecart form, so they can be moved around, unlike the other alternatives which just cannot be moved around, period. This works with chests as well, so you can put anything into the chest, you can put anything into the hopper. This acts like a hopper. It's pretty epic. Also, an important thing to know is that if you've got a block on top of this can suck stuff through it. Or if I have a block actually on top of it. Well, if I actually if I put this on a rail, there we go. Now if I throw an item down, it should just go straight through, you see? Next up we have the lever and the button. These act like if a repeater was going into a block. Or like, imagine this was a repeater, right? It can power anything by 15 redstones, by a redstone signal of 15. But, yeah. And if you attach it to a block, it will power that block. As you can see here, this will still power. Just think of them as a repeater that can go in any direction. And you can also just manually turn on and off. That's the best way to do it. I mean, also, it's the simplest redstone component there is. Next we have the redstone lamp. The redstone lamp is actually very interesting because it stays on for longer when it's powered. You see that? It will unpower, and then it will actually like, what's it called? It will unpower before it actually like turns off. So if I do like a super duper fast redstone clock right here, I need a block. That's a bad example. And I need some redstone. If I do this, and also grab a lever. So if I do this, this will just stay on constantly. Because even though it turns off, it doesn't turn off. This thing doesn't unpower for long enough for this to actually like stop working. if that makes sense. Because if I put some redstone here, as you can see, it still actually powers it. But yeah, it just doesn't unpower long enough for the redstone lamp to actually like do anything with it. Right, then we also have the note block, which is really fun to use, you know, you can change the pitch, and if you hit it, I can't do that because I'm in creative, I'll just break it. But if you hit it, it'll just like do the same pitch as it just did. And of course, powering up redstone makes it play a pitch. But also, if you have a block above it, it mutes it. If anyone's wondering why the lectern wasn't mentioned, is because it uses comparators, and as I said, I'm not going to mention comparators in this video. I can't believe I've done this. I almost forgot that we had to do this block here. I forgot this was a thing. Redstone blocks. They act as like a lever that's constantly on, and you can move it some places. You can't really move it vertically, but yeah. Also breaks items, that's any block. Epic, yeah. And that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and here's a horse slowly dying to slime. I hope you enjoyed.